Gemini and Capricorn, oh my god. This is a really interesting relationship, and one that plays such a huge role in my life because there's so many loved ones around me, from friends to family members to just everyone that I know so many Capricorns, and our relationship is so interesting with each one. It's really fascinating. And it was honestly, it was hard. It seems like this relationship is hard in the beginning and just gets better with time. And that makes sense because that's Capricorn's motto, that's Saturn's motto of patience. Make sure it's real, make sure it has a solid foundation and it's actually going good places and whatnot. And so maybe, yeah, actually that's no doubt why it's difficult at first when it gets better. Oh man, there's so much to talk about. Where to even begin? Let's talk about one of the challenges first, because I think that this is the biggest challenge, and then everything is beautiful in this relationship. And then we'll talk about all the awesome, amazing things that happens when these two signs combine their abilities and their temperaments and their perspectives. So the challenge for this relationship, and I found it pretty much every single Capricorn I've ever met, is the Capricorn in this relationship really needs to learn to trust the Gemini if they're trustworthy. It should be said that all Geminis have to go through the challenge of being untrustworthy before being trustworthy, because we're just so damn quick and we're so mischievous. And we don't mean any harm. Geminis really don't mean any harm, but sometimes at the very lowest order of our energies, Geminis get they prize chaos for chaos' sake, and also they can be rather self-serving, conning people and stuff like that. I have a lot of Leo, and a lot of fire energy and integrity and honor helps mitigate this. So even if you're a Gemini with not a lot of fire, I would take some cues from the fire signs of their genuine nature, of their honesty. It's really important for Gemini to learn that, and especially in this relationship, because Capricorn not only can spot bullshit and call it out very, very easily, which is a great talent, but they can also be rather pessimistic, and even if they just get a hint, of maybe something's not right, even if something, again, with all my Leo, I'm a very honest Gemini, and I don't con people, I don't, fuck them over or anything. Even when I was younger, little white lies, and that was my challenge. Is like, okay, make sure you're always, telling the truth instead of being mischievous Gemini and just saying whatever needs to be said for things to go smoothly. That was my challenge, but yeah, Capricorn can be rather pessimistic, and they can see things that exist when they really don't, and it's so ironic because it's an earth sign, but, pessimism and fear and doubt and whatnot can definitely cloud clarity, and, oh, that sounds good, cloud clarity, and, in the Gemini's case, they they see this, in their very serious perspective, they see this character who's very nervously high-strung. Geminis, even if we're not, being anxious, the lower sides, the more, not lower in a negative or judgmental way, but the challenging sides of being a Gemini, of being reliable, being stable enough to get things done, and to not just be a flighty character that just, flies around on the nerves all the time. Capricorns can see that and go automatically, nope, can't trust that person, nope. And again, in my case, it's unfortunate because it's been unfair, those kind of assessments of my character, because again, that pessimism can come in and can cloud clarity, and it's unfortunate when that happens. So for the Gemini in this relationship, it's really important just to be as honest as possible, as forthright as possible. Also, I think it's important for the Gemini, for us, my experience is to calm down when we're around a Capricorn. There's no need to pretend that we're something we're not, or to limit our enthusiasm or love for life and our curiosity for life. There's no need to limit that. But it is important for us to keep in mind that Capricorn is not quite as excitable, I mean, they get just as excited as Gemini and just as happy about life and whatnot. But it's not really on the surface, and it's certainly not as done as much as Gemini. Their happiness is more of a, that project that I've been seeing through for forever has finally reached its culmination, or it's a lot more time oriented instead of Gemini, which is all about now, 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 now. So that's a little bit of awareness goes a long way, and honestly, in this relationship, I find that unless Capricorn has, say, Mercury in Aquarius or Mercury in Sag, a little bit less so, but unless the Capricorn has those energies, it's really up to the Gemini to be aware of these energies and to relay it. With the Capricorns in my life, they never, and that's totally fine, but they never ask about what's our astrological energies. In fact, Capricorn is one of the most doubting Thomases of the zodiac, if not the most. I find when it comes to astrology, because they like very practical things, common sense things, and of course, astrology is wonderfully common sense and practical, but you have to immerse yourself in a lot of air, faculties, a lot of understanding terms, understanding psychological observations of others. And Capricorn, that's just not what they're interested in. Their skills lie in the real world. Again, building from the ground up, practical, getting people to work together, working with people, and most importantly, seeing a wonderful change in reality, building something. Whether that's literal or figurative, it's important for Capricorn to build. That's where their strong suit comes from, because not only do they see how things can stand the test of time, and thus build a solid foundation, a solid whatever it is that they're doing in their project, but it's going to be very useful and also going to be very lucrative for them and the world as well. Capricorn's very interested in contributing to society in a very profound but also matter-of-fact way, a way that really can be felt as tangible. So yeah, in this relationship, because of these elements at play, it's up to the Gemini to kind of understand the psychology of Capricorn and to be flexible, to do what Gemini does best and be able to adapt. And it's not the easiest thing, and there's a lot of bumps and snags and whatnot along the way. The composite for Capricorn and Gemini is basically along the cusp of Pisces and Aries. And, of course it changes with what degree Capricorn, what degree Gemini, and whatnot, and when they come together. But in most of the composite charts I've seen between these two signs, it's somewhere along that cusp. And especially if it's, for example, Mercury in Cap and Mercury in Gemini, then that is also on that cusp. And, in general, but even more so with those Mercuries, there's a lot of confusion in this relationship if communication isn't forthright. And again, just like I say in all of these videos of signs coming together, there's a lot of confusion and even strife if the signs aren't in their healthy presence, if they're not loving themselves and appreciating their gifts and developing their gifts and just having a lease on life, knowing why they're here, or at least trying to find out why they're here, why we're here. That pursuit changes everything. It makes us all so much more vibrant as human beings, and it makes us healthier, so we're not so marred by pain and fear and whatnot. And so that's really important in this relationship, I would say, even more so, because Capricorn can get really depressed and down and very cynical, and Gemini's gifts can go unnoticed by Capricorn, and it's only some time later that they go, oh, okay, now I get it. So I'd really recommend keeping that confusion aspect in mind, that Pisces composite energy, and the Aries element too of that composite energy I've noticed is sometimes there's just straight up miscommunications that happen between these two signs, and again even more so when those Mercuries are involved, and you just got to work through them. The Gemini's got to be calm and not be so shocked or be so high strung and affected when say Capricorn takes something the wrong way and they react in a very negative fashion. That happens a lot, I find, in this relationship, and that's okay. Again, Capricorn is perceiving something other than what Gemini is trying to say when those times happen. That's when the confusion happens, because Gemini says blah 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 blah, Capricorn hears the absolute worst of that. And even if they're in their presence, sometimes I find, these miscommunications happen, and that's also okay. It's even better in that case, because then you can talk and get through the miscommunication, have a little laugh about it, and move forward on a solid platform of common understanding. Yeah. So, let's see, is there any other elements of challenge with what I was just talking about? Let's move on to the gifts. So, the beautiful gifts of this relationship, like I was saying, you have Gemini, which is very airy, intellectual, always all over the place, really good at networking. And then you have Capricorn, who's wonderful at building, at putting solid projects together. And it really is a wonderful team. When a Capricorn commits to somebody, they throw their full weight behind, or at least a substantial amount of their weight. They're not one to scatter their energies, for example, like Gemini. And when a Gemini commits to somebody, they're the same way. They commit their minds to helping that person. Many times have I offered advice or guidance or whatever to Capricorn friends purely out of just my love for them and that friendship. And knowing that that's a solid friendship and a solid friend and somebody I can count on and somebody I'm more than happy to help if I possibly can. So once these two signs learn to trust each other, basically, and Gemini doesn't get too turned off by Capricorn's very serious nature, and it's important for us as Geminis to learn how to adapt with people who are much more serious and sober, and to interact with them and not just run away. That's definitely happened in my life, where when I was younger I would run away from that serious and avoid it at all costs. And that's definitely, it's our challenge as Geminis, but it's also the challenge of Capricorn to not thrust that heaviness upon Gemini and trap them with all that energy. So both sides honestly have to give and take. Like I said before, Gemini is a bit more oriented towards psychological observations and whatnot, but Capricorn, we're all humans, and it's important that we understand even just a little bit of working knowledge of each other's temperaments and how to best harmonize. Yes, there's conflict. That's okay. Conflict's a good thing. It helps us move forward as long as we treat it in a healthy manner and we talk and we get through it. We figure out why that conflict existed, how to make sure it doesn't exist in the future, or it's a better situation. And so it is important for Capricorn to know a little bit about Gemini, and to, even if Gemini's one who's making observations and talking and bringing them up for discussion and whatnot, it's important that Capricorn realizes that, yes, Gemini is an eternal child. We are so, well, we're all eternal children on the inside, but Gemini exhibits that readily. We are so so curious about life endlessly. Geminis, when we stop being curious about life, we're dead. If not on the outside, then on the inside. Geminis need to be curious for life, to know that we don't know all the answers, and that we, want to explore more and talk more and learn more. And I've seen it in my wonderful, I'm very happy to say my friendships with Capricorn friends and family members, is they've learned that from me, to not take everything I say, or any Gemini says, too I hesitate to say too seriously, but there are certainly times when Gemini's talking when it's only really Gemini who needs to hear. That's a huge generalization, because honestly, whenever I'm talking to other people, I always have content. Of course, when I was younger, that wasn't always the case. I had to learn to not be so talkative for no reason. But now, honestly, whenever I talk, I have content. But even then, Capricorn's an earth sign. It's a practical sign. It's not an air sign. It doesn't really like talking. Not as much as Gemini, certainly. Nobody likes talking as much as Gemini. And the other air signs, too. And, it should be said that it takes a lot more energy. Whereas Gemini naturally gets energy for talking, that's these videos, Capricorn has to structure it in their heads and then put it out there, and they have to organize it, and they have to really think and muse. It's wonderful. The minds of Capricorns, they're so sober, they're so able to sit and really ponder for a long, long time, years even, and then they, render their verdict. They say or they do. And speaking of gifts, that's one of the beautiful things about this relationship, is when these two signs come together, they really can accomplish anything. Because with Gemini's quick skills and networking abilities and just abilities to guide and to have advice and to have the details sorted out in a very fluid manner, that really aids Capricorn, who's again is a much more of a one step at a time, very solid motion. You have two. It's wonderful to see these two signs working in tandem, because they're very different, but when they're working together, they're so powerful. You have Capricorn who sets the direction. Of course, Gemini has to agree with that direction. It's important that Capricorn doesn't just say, "Go this way." That happens a lot in these relationships, especially with families. Capricorn can sometimes, just like Cancer, it's partner sign. I definitely relate with all my Cancer, and hell, with my Capricorn too. Capricorn can go, "That's the way, and that's the only way," especially with kids and their family and whatnot. And Gemini's like, hell no, I'm gonna do that because that's what looks fun. I'm also gonna do that, that. Capricorn goes, "What? No, what? No, you must go this way." It's important to get over that. It's important for these two signs to work together and to not think that they know what's best all the time for the other sign. Have I gotten amazing advice from Capricorns that has completely changed my life, completely helped me, and advice I really needed? Yes. Have there also been times when Capricorns have tried to shackle me and put me in a certain direction because they think it's best? Yes. Second one, not so good. And in fact, it's impossible to shackle an air sign, let alone a Gemini. Good luck. It's not possible. It's just not, Even if you literally shackled me somewhere, my mind is completely gone. It's completely in another place, and I'm thinking of ways to get free, and So it's important for these two signs to really be consciously working together and harmoniously, as the goal to be working together. Because again, once Capricorn sets the direction that Gemini agrees with, and Gemini's allowed to, that Capricorn just keeps moving forward. Steadily but surely, they make progress. Capricorns do not fail. They continue, and they persevere. So for that matter, it's really important for the Capricorn to kind of listen to the Gemini sometimes and go, wait, is that really the direction you want to go? Is that really what you're after? Like, let's talk about this. Let's think about this. Let's plan for the future. Because when these two signs plan, oh my God, again, it's incredible. These two meeting of the minds that is just very, very powerful. They can really bring about incredible change. They bring ideas, Gemini's ideas and thoughts and whatnot. Or, even if it started with the Capricorn, the Gemini can help fine detail the ideas and spot, potential mishaps and challenges and whatnot. And also solutions. That's the biggest tool of Gemini, finding solutions to challenges and problems that other people don't even think about. That's just, honestly, what we're about. It's how our minds work. Anyways, when Capricorn is going in that direction, when Gemini is free to flitter about, but also, go in that direction. And for all of our scatteredness, Geminis are very, very able to pursue a course of action as long as we are interested in it, and as long as it's worthwhile to us. It appeals to our higher ideals of truth and beauty and life and all those things. It's unstoppable, truly. And I deeply prize these relationships in my life with my Capricorn loved ones. And, it should be said that because Capricorn's right next to Sag, the partner sign for Gemini, the sign, partner signs are what makes us come alive. It's true love. It's chemistry. It's just your best friend. It's that amazing, just, and thinking about it, the Capricorns in my life all have a little bit of Sag, which is really funny. Mercury or Venus especially, I find interesting. But, when that's present with the Capricorn, that little bit of philosophical, very excitable, just as excitable as Gemini, very exploratory, Sag energy. And for that matter, when Gemini has a bit of Cancer, because Gemini is right next to Cancer, and when Gemini has Mercury or Venus, or in my case, Moon and Rising right on the cusp, when the Gemini has Cancer and can be a little bit more emotionally available and nurturing for the Capricorn, when either of those elements are at play, or when both of those elements are at play, these people become best friends. And it's a very funny, strange combo, it seems, of Capricorn and Gemini, but it makes perfect sense, you know? When these two signs are working in tandem, and when they can understand each other, and when they can forgive each other's faults, or, you know, what they see as their faults. When Capricorn isn't so concerned about trying to set Gemini on the right course all the time, and, you know, get them to be more stable and practical, and they appreciate the kind of wild but orderly chaos that Gemini represents. And when Gemini can, you know, not be so flighty as to run away from everything that's serious, and actually deal with things, and actually appreciate the very amazingly sober outlook and perspective of Capricorn. Even if they don't necessarily agree all the time. That happens all the time with my Capricorn loved ones, where, you know, well, what about this? Oh, I don't know, because of, you know, this. There have been many times I'm like, I don't know, my Capricornian friend. I think this is still possible despite your misgivings. And, you know, I've been right. Of course, sometimes I've been wrong, but sometimes. This is a very deep relationship when the Gemini is able to get the Capricorn to talk about life. And in fact, that's probably one of my favorite parts of this relationship, especially with my Capricorn loved ones who are a little bit more advanced in years and wisdom in this life, is they have incredible stories, they have incredible knowledge and wisdom to share. And Gemini soaks up knowledge and wisdom. That we love that. We need to find that meaning, to find meaning in things. And Capricorn, over the course of their life, craft beautiful, beautiful diamonds of meaning and anecdotes and lessons. And many a times have I heard amazing stories and gotten amazing lessons from my Capricorn loved ones. And it's really helped me in my life. And it's truly given me ground to stand on, you know. And even though, you know, sometimes I have to go make my own mistakes and whatnot, even if the Capricorn made them themselves, but when these two signs are talking and they're going deep and they're, you know, Capricorn's open and Gemini is asking the right questions, it's a wonderful thing. These two signs in some ways are absolutely different, you know. And sometimes they may seem even diametrically opposed, but when you find that common ground between any two people, but especially between Capricorn and Gemini, it's magical. And you can really accomplish things. These two energies working together. Namaste.